And it's going to be Daniel Chapman on the left-hand side of the screen. On the right-hand side of the screen, it is Trafford King. The lights go out. A slightly better start by King, if anything, I think. And is he going to get the run up to the first corner? It's going to be Chapman, of course, in the white, orange and blue car that's going to have the inside line for Redgate Corner. And does he get the car turned through? Oh, and there's a moment there for Trafford King. Possibly there was some contact. Jeff Humphreys goes off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars have gone off into the gravel trap at the first corner of the Type R Trophy race.
Joe Jessop's sick from 15th on the grid.
Well, he was one of the ones that didn't go through the gravel trap, I think. So that's what that is all about. Then you've got the 86 car going through. That's Matt Wilkins. He's up into second place in the red and black car. So a chaotic first couple of corners then of this race, and some drivers no doubt with some work to do, but it is Dan Chapman leading at the moment then from in second place Matt Wilkins. Then the rest of them, there's a gap after the first 4.
The car arrived backwards into McLean's, which has now done a full 360.
Miles has been collected as well, I'm afraid, at McLean. So there's both of those cars now off into the gravel trap.
Miles Nathaniel James is third from 8th on the grid. So it seems, if you stay on the track, it's a pretty good way to get around Redgate Corner to gain positions.
Yeah, so those 2 cars stricken, I'm afraid. The black car was the one that originally went off. Jonathan O'Neill was the other one. Was it Matthew Morgan, I think, the car that had gone off originally? So Marshall's rushing to the scene.
So O'Neill must have been off at Redgate because he started on the second row of the grid initially. So we'll see what happens next. Jeff Humphreys has got a bit of damage to his car. Potentially that was the initial contact with Trafford King, but then I think everybody else, I don't think was related, was it? There's a lot of cars that went off through the pack. Here's the battle for the lead of the race. So Matt Wilkins is looking up the inside of Dan Chapman, and they may have brushed a little bit there. There's no flags here, so I think we're carrying on racing for now. Miles Nathaniel James up to third, as I said, from 8th on the grid, so he's had a very good opening lap. Who is going to lead then out of these 2 into Redgate Corner? The outside line is the 86 car of Wilkins, isn't it? Again, that's a car in a different livery since I last saw it. I think there's a lot of gravel on the road, but that's not stopping Matt Wilkins challenging. And Miles Nathaniel James is getting closer and closer to the car ahead. So it's free for the lead, down the Craner curves, down into the old hairpin. But Dan Chapman, who's not won yet this season, is holding them off for now.
He is indeed. Good race this then between these 3. Probably going to be one of these 3 that wins this one, I should think, given the gaps that have opened up there. Some marshals either rushing back to their post or to the incident. That is the 116 car of Matthew Morgan that has come unstuck there. So there'll be yellow flags here. No overtaking there. You can see them being waved at McLean's, but they should be in a green flag zone by the time they arrive to Coppice Corner. And Chapman under pressure here from Wilkins for the second part of Coppice, trying to go around the outside and position his car on the left-hand side of the circuit for the Fogarty S's. Couldn't quite make that work. Now he goes to, well, initially driver's right, now to his left, and now to the right again as he heads down to the Fogarty S's. Poor old it's not Joe McMullen, Nathaniel James, I should say, in third place. Probably didn't know what on earth was going on there, didn't know which way to go. He's still there in third. Then it is Joseph McMullen in the yellow car in fourth position, and he is under threat from the champion, Joe Jessop, up the inside of him into the Melbourne hairpin, and Joe Jessop from row 8 of the grid goes fourth.
Yeah, he's had a lot to do on these opening lap and a half or so. So if he makes it to the podium, Andy McEwen's got all kind of questions to ask him about how he's managed to do that. Joe Delgano's up there too now, up in 6th position. He was one of the winners from Cadwell. Then Jeff Humphreys is 7th. But for the lead of the race then, it is Dan Chapman ahead of Matt Wilkins. Wilkins, who won the race at Cadwell Park, the opening race there, after a battle which ended with Miles Nathaniel James in the barriers. Here's the car up next, but now Wilkins to the inside for the Craner curve. So Dan Chapman, who's not won a race yet, has a very, very sideways car of Wilkins alongside him. Wilkins saved it, thankfully, and they turn into the old hairpin, and he's still behind. It feels though, even though Dan Chapman got pole this morning he's not the quickest driver in the race.
No, it doesn't look like he is. He's working very hard though to keep Matt Wilkins at bay. Wilkins, to be fair, giving him a bit of a helping hand by being a bit sideways there, but he has got the lead now through Schwantzkirchen 7 up to McLean's. So Wilkins it is that takes the lead from Chapman in second, Nathaniel James third, and then it's Joe Jessup. And I've just had an update. What happened to him in qualifying? Gearbox broke, so that's why he was further back on the grid than he would have liked to have been. He's obviously got that sorted now because he's homing in on the top 3 as they head now down the back straight towards the Fogarty S's. He's up to 4th, McMullen 5th, Dalgarno is 6th. Jeff Humphries, I think, is he in 7th place? I think he is just at the moment. But it's 3 for the lead. I think it probably is going to become 4th for the lead before much longer.
This battle between Wilkins and Chapman really is the battle of a second in the championship as well. On drop, when you account for drop scores, just a couple of points separate them, I believe. So that's a potentially important move, not just for a race win, but for second in the championship as well for Matt Wilkins. And a big dive up the inside there from Trafford King. Remember, he was the one at sideways at Redgate on the first lap. That was only 5 minutes ago. It feels like a lot more than that. A lot has happened, but for Trafford King, he's a long way down the order. But he's trying to get into the top 10 because 10 cars get reversed on the grid later, although he's not necessarily gained that position because the Adam Parker car comes back down the inside. So he's running in the top 10, going well, Ian. You spoke about him earlier.
Yeah, that's really good to see, isn't it? You know, it's proved it's not just a flash in the pan from qualifying this morning. So well done to Adam and Aaron, who's done so much work to prepare that car as well. So we are on to lap 4 of the race. Matt Wilkins has just done the best lap, a 151.15. That is a lap record because these cars haven't raced on this configuration before.
It's also quicker than qualifying, so quick lap times come in the race. And he had to make an overtaking move and had a big slide on that lap as well.
Yeah, absolutely right. There we can see the 14 car, I think that is, coming through of Martin Bugg. Just up ahead of them is the 24 car of Jake Johnson as well. That is in 16th position. Also around there you've got Samuel Dennis, number 95, in 20th, but back to the 3 leaders. It is still Matt Wilkins, but he's not been able to get away here from the second place car of Dan Chapman at this stage.
Dan Chapman, who's had 6 podiums this year but never a win. He's looking to challenge again perhaps on the race leader Matt Wilkins right on his bumper. Meanwhile, about a 5th is all changed around on this lap because both Joe Dalgarno and Jeff Humphries have gone past Joseph McMullen, who's lost out. The driver from Worcestershire drops to 7th, but here's a battle for the lead, and Miles Nathaniel James up the inside of Dan Chapman, who was trying to go for the lead a corner ago, has now lost 2nd position. So Miles Nathaniel James, the 28-year-old from London, is up a position, up into 2nd place as they come to complete just the 4th lap of this 15-minute race, halfway through the duration.
Yeah, and he's under threat again, isn't he, there from Dan Chapman? Is Nathaniel James, who did a tiny little bit of Formula Ford racing. Brands Hatch winner in this championship earlier on this season. Over the line go the top 4. And they are covered by 1.8 seconds. Joe Jessup has just done the lap record, a 150.88. He was 9/10 faster than the Daniel Chapman on that lap, who did a personal best lap and lost a position as well. So lots going on for him. Look at all that gravel on the circuit that the marshals are going to have to deal with after this race. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why it's so important to police track limits. When you end up with that amount of gravel on the circuit. As we watch the number 93 car of Joe Dalgarno head through with Jeff Humphries just behind him. This the battle, Josh, for 5th and 6th positions.
Yeah, not quite sure how far Humphries dropped back, but he's only went through the gravel on that first lap, didn't he, after the incident that happened. 4 leaders altogether, and basically the quickest car's at the back of the queue, isn't it? Because Joe Jessup, you mentioned, just set the fastest lap, about a second quicker than anyone when in qualifying. So that sort of adds to that theory that we didn't see the best of everyone this morning. But they've sort of sorted themselves out in one way or another over these first 4 laps. We're on lap 5 now, with Matt Wilkins, our race leader, the 39-year-old from Berkshire. His car 7 has a problem. That's Andy Iodine from the West Midlands in his first season of racing. But unfortunately, his penultimate racer season looks like it's come to an end a few laps early.
Yeah, that was Dan Chapman's old car as well for the 40-year-old garage owner from Dudley. Andrew Idwine out of the race, it would seem. There is the 93 car of Joseph Dalgarno. Just behind him is Jeff Humphries. Just behind him is Joseph McMullen. And then we have a 3-car battle for 8th, 9th and 10th. Oliver Musgrave, Adam Parsonage and Trafford King, who of course started on the front row, but was maybe nudged a little bit sideways at the first corner. He's having to fight back.
Yeah, but he's back into the top 10, importantly, for him. So it's been a good recovery. At the front of this squabble is Ollie Musgrave, the 20-year-old from Cheshire, in one of the many Danny Hobson prepared cars, but he is under intense pressure from Adam Parsonage from East Staffordshire. the ex-low-cost racer, trying to go for 8th position on the outside line into Redgate corner. A small lock-up on the inside from Musgrave, but he's got the inside line, which he gives plenty of room, doesn't he? Lots of racing room given there on the outside, so good respect there given, and it's worked out well for him because he's kept the position in 8th place.
5 minutes of the race left to go in the first of 2 races today for the Tegiwa Type R Trophy. Number 86 Matt Wilkins leads from number 21 Martin Nathaniel James in second, 104 Daniel Chapman is third, 28 Joe Jessup is fourth, 93 Joe Dalgarno is fifth, and Jeff Humphries number 5 is in 6th position as the cars, the leaders, head up to Coppice once again for lap 6 of the race, and Joe Jessup is now certainly with them to make it a distinct 4-car group for the lead, and then you've got Dalgarno and Humphries together in 5th place. Humphries, who has been a winner during the course of this season at Mallory Park.
So is Dalgarno, because he won at Cadwell. He's come on a long way since the beginning of the season, because I think it's fair to say that Joe was at the opposite end of the grid at the beginning of the season. Last year's MG Trophy champion, now much more consistently towards the sharp end, and running in 5th position, so he'll be pretty pleased with that, I should think. In the background, the battle for 8th position has a challenge because Trafford King is challenging, and there's a 4th car joining in, which is Travis Patterson. So an important battle, as we said, the top 10 reversed for the race at the end of the day. So as it stands, one of these drivers will miss out on that reversal. Parsonage looks to the outside of Musgrave, can't go through there, but Trafford King hasn't sort of progressed through this battle like we thought he might do. Meanwhile, in front, Dalgarno under much more pressure from Humphries, which has brought Joe McMullen into that battle. But for 8th spot, Parsonage, is he going to get down the inside into Redgate? No, he can't. And Musgrave is defending well at this point. He is lapping in the 53s. Meanwhile, Patterson, who's joined this battle, is in the 52s. Oh, and a big slide there from Dalgarno now. It's quite an exciting part of the track, isn't it? The grainy curves in these cars.
Someone had gone off at Redgate corner. We could just see in the background of that shot, we could see the gravel being kicked up, the dust being kicked up. There's the 42 car of Trafford King. He's trying to find a way past Parsonage and up into 9th place as Humphries and Dalgarno are side by side here, and it's Humphries that is through then in the number 5 car. So he's into 5th place now. Dalgarno and McMullen right behind, but Humphries wide at Coppice corner. Dalgarno comes straight back at him and gets the place away, I think, at Coppice corner, although Humphries will now have the line for the Fogarty S's, of course, and it's almost going to be 3 wide down the back straight, it looked for a moment. I think Humphries, he has got it done again, hasn't he? So a couple of changes of position there in quick succession for 5th. Just to quickly mention the driver down in 18th position, that's number 18, Matt Duffel. I mentioned him only because he's one of the most local drivers here this weekend. 35-year-old self-employed IT consultant from Griffey Dam, and he says this track has got everything, and also it's his most local, which is why he likes it most of all.
About to start, is it maybe the penultimate lap or 2 to go? It's going to be tight, isn't it? Whether it is an 8 or 9 lap race. Probably this is going to be the start of the last lap, I would think. And the lead gap is 7/10 of a second, and Martin Nathaniel James has just set the fastest lap. That man there, in number 21, MNJ, does the 1 minute 50.36. For the driving the X, Aaron Sharp. Couple of yellow flags now at the top of Hollywood.
Yeah, that's just gone out as well, and that is because we've got a car that is trying. I think that's Richard Lindsay, the drive from Leeds, that has stopped just at the bottom end of the corner curves towards the old hairpin. He was a bit further down the order. Miles
Nathaniel James now pretty much with Matt Wilkins, the ex-Compact Cup racer, ahead of him. Can Matt Wilkins hang on to take his 2nd win of the season? He won also at Cadwell Park in July, but Miles Nathaniel James, who won at Brands Hatch in May, is going to give this a good go. Started 8th on the grid, so he's had to work his way through the order. He's had a troublesome last couple of meetings. He was leading at Cadwell Park going on to the last lap when he had an incident with Matt Wilkins.
Okay.
So let's see what happens this time around, Ian.
Right, so down to the Fogarty S's, and we'll see whether we get the check flag at the end of this one or whether they give them a lap more. We will see as they turn their way through the Fogarty S's then for what may be the last time, or it may not. Down towards the Melbourne hairpin they go. There's a couple of car lengths between them. There's a gap back to Daniel Chapman and Joe Jessup, who wouldn't mind a podium on his penultimate race of the championship winning season for him. but still needs to find a way past Chapman, who's not going to make that easy for him. Up towards the Goddard hairpin they come. And Nathaniel James certainly not trying any demon outbreaking manoeuvres there, just content, it would seem, to follow him through. And we get a last lap board. So maybe he was thinking, we're going to get a last lap board. And I'll save that for the next time around. Last lap board goes out then, and it is Matt Wilkins still leading by about 0.6 of a second from the man who has the fastest lap, Miles Nathaniel James.
So battles continue further back. Travis Patterson, who was at the back of this queue, has got towards the front of it now. Looks like he and Trafford King have passed Ollie Musgraves and Adam Parsonage. There's a battle now heading down towards Redgate Corner for 8th spot. And Patterson's on the outside line there of Trafford King. The 29-year-old from York is ahead after gaining lots of positions during the course of this race. But Travis Patterson looks pretty quick today, which is good for him. He's had a 5th position as his best result so far this season, and they turn their way through the old hairpin for what certainly is going to be the last lap this time. The top two turn their way through Coppice Corner with Matt Wilkins, the 39-year-old, ahead. He's had a lot more experience in car racing compared to Miles Nathaniel James behind him, and Wilkins going pretty defensive early on down the straight, although I don't think Nathaniel James is quite close enough at this stage in to challenge.
No, I don't think he is, and has he got anything up his sleeve? Is he going to make an outbreaking manoeuvre into either of the final 2 hairpins that we have here? Of course, it could prove to be important for second place in the championship if that's anything he's thinking about at all, because it's still a possibility that he could get that. Out of Melbourne he comes, then climbs the hill towards Goddard. So once again, is he going to try anything? He's not got the body language, or the car hasn't got the body language of someone who is about to. No, doesn't. I mean, if anything, the leading car is the one that almost outbreaks itself a little bit there. But I think Matt Wilkins is going to be able to bring it home to the checker flag as it goes out now. Matt Wilkins it is that takes the checker flag. Miles Nathaniel James is second. 3rd place goes the way of the pole position car of Daniel Chapman. 4th place goes to the champion, Joe Jessup. Then there's quite a gap back, actually, to 5th position. And that is going to be Jeff Humphreys. Is it, or is it not, as they come up to the line? I think it has changed as they go over the timing line, possibly. Yeah. Yes, it has. Joe Dalgarno by about 1/10 of a second is 5th. Jeff Humphreys 6th. Joe McMullen 7th. Who's going to be 8th?
We're looking at a right scrap going on behind. It was King, Patterson and Musgraves, by the way, completed the top 10. But there's a big battle. It's 3 abreast with a great big lock-up up the inside for Craig Atkinson, the 21-year-old. They made a big challenge on the inside line. That was a great big battle that we weren't really able to focus on because a lot was going on further up the order. That was a nice battle for something like 13th position, I think, which Martin Bugg came out on top of, the Carpenter from Leicestershire here. So that was a good battle as well, and a good race. Lots going on in that race. I don't think many people finished where they started, so
no.
Lots of stories to be told in the paddock, I'm sure. But Matt Wilkins, his 2nd win of the season, and let's take a look at how the results were for round 13 of the Tegiwa Type R Trophy for 2023.
Certainly one of the best races we've seen this season in the Type R Trophy. It was won by number 86, Matt Wilkins. He completed 9 laps and was just over 0.6 of a second clear of number 21, Miles Nathaniel James. In 3rd place was number 104, Daniel Chapman, just keeping 28, Joe Jessup at bay for 4th place. In 5th place was number 93, Joe Dalgarno, taking the position away from Jeff Humphreys on the drag to the line, so 93 from 5. 7th was number 11, Joe McMullen. 8th, number 42, Trafford King. 9th, number 13, Travis Patterson. 10th, number 19, Oliver Musgrave. 11th, number 64, Adam Parsonage. Great result for Adam Parker, number 92. Took 12th position ahead of Martin Bugg and James Delisle. Further back, you've got Matthew Simonite, Matthew Duffel, and Richard Jones, Craig Atkinson, Andrew Cooper, switching over from Formula V, he was 19th, and Samuel Dennis completed the top 20 at the end of the first of 2 races today for the Tegiwa Type R Trophy. They are going to be back out at the end of the day, around about 6:15 this afternoon. Looks like someone's being shown a driving standards flag in the pit lane there, because maybe they exceeded track limits at some point during the course of that race as well. Still plenty more racing to come this afternoon at Donington Park. We're going to stay with tin tops and hot hatches next because it's the K-Tech Racing Clio Sport Championship, and we'll have more from that after we head down to the pit lane and Andy McEwen, who's going to speak to our top 3 from the Tegiwa Type R Trophy.
Top 3 drivers have just arrived down into the pit lane area. I'm walking to pit boards again. I did that at Anglesey earlier on this season. Typically, as soon as they get out of the car, the first thing they want to do is talk to each other. But if I could just... Oh, watch out. It's a busy place down here in the pit lane. We'll let our race winner, Matt, get his helmet off first before we get his thoughts on what was a very exciting race. Typical, really, of the Type R Trophy. Really close quarter stuff out there. And it really does make it one of the best one-make series around. But it was, in the end, Matt Wilkins from 5th on the grid who came out on top at the end of that race. A race that saw a bit of carnage at the first corner, and I think it's fair to say, Matt, that perhaps you benefited a little bit from that carnage at the start.
I don't really know what happened, to be honest. I'd have to watch it back, but yeah, no, it went really well. Tough race.
Very tough race, and really once you got into the lead, as is typical of this championship, you just can't really escape at the front, can you?
No, there's a lot of defending to do. It wasn't easy. Miles kept me on my toes.
Was there a part of the circuit where Miles seemed to be closing in on you? It looked like maybe through the crane of curves, the old hairpin he'd closed.
Over there, and a few times I pulled back a little bit, and I think he didn't, which allowed. But yeah, he's quick all the way around. He did really well.
And reverse grid now for race 2 coming up later in the weekend. Thoughts for that one?
I hadn't thought about it yet, but we'll be starting 10th.
Excellent, there we go. Well, lots of overtaking to do in that one, that's for sure. But he came from 5th on the grid in that race, so should be able to do it. Now, Miles is stood behind me. Congratulations, 2nd place finish, but it was so nearly the win, that, wasn't it?
I know, I mean, I didn't really expect to get to where I got after qualifying. I mean, I was really gutted because I knew I had the pace in qualifying, but then I had to dodge someone to... so it was a shame for qualifying, but in that race, managed to get to the front pretty quickly. A few of the people took each other off, and it was mainly Matt Wilkins, Daniel Chapman and me. Got past Chapman, but Wilkins... I feel like I was quicker than him everywhere apart from this last corner. I just could not get a run on him. Our pace was pretty similar, but just wasn't. I got right on his bumper, but just could not get past. So it's better than I expected, I'll be honest with you. So.
Talk us through your view of the start, because you started, I think it was 8th on the grid, wasn't it, for that race, and you sort of popped up inside the top 3 or 4 pretty quickly. What was your view of what happened at turn 1?
I mean, I got a good start, but then when it got to turn 1, I think 3 of them just got in. It was more about staying out of trouble than anything. It all happened so quickly, I couldn't tell you who was at fault or whatever, but it was mainly about keeping out of trouble. Once that happened, I knew I could try and fight for the win, but it was a bit of a chaotic start, but it's good to escape it.
Absolutely so. And a 2nd place finish, a strong result for Miles. Now in 3rd place, Dan Chapman. Pole position to 3rd place. It's not the ideal result, I suppose, but are you satisfied with getting onto the podium at least?
Yeah, I'm pleased to have a podium, but yeah, not what we wanted. But yeah, at least we're on the podium, and at least we've got some decent points.
And it's so evenly matched at the front, isn't it, that when you do lose that bit of track position, it's so hard to then try and get it back. Did you feel that at any point there was maybe a slightly risky move you could have made to try and improve on 3rd?
No, there was. As soon as I got past, they did pull a bit of a gap, and I think that was just me. That was it. I was done for the race then.
And yeah, like I said, difficult to overtake out there, but you have more overtaking to do now in race 2, starting from what, it's going to be 8th on the grid, isn't it? Any game plan at all for race 2, or are you one of those drivers who just kind of adapts as the race goes along?
It's just going to be one of those where to try and get as many points as possible and see where we can get to on the grid.
Excellent, sounds like a plan. Congratulations then to our podium finishers, Dan Chapman in 3rd position, 2nd place Miles Nathaniel Jones, and Matt Wilkins with the race victory. Right, from one front-wheel drive, one make tin top category to another, because it's the K-Tech Racing Clio Sport Championship cars which are heading onto the circuit next.